On March 27th, rotation will come to Pokemon TCG Live, removing all cards with an F in the bottom left from standard. But over in Japan, Rotation and Journey Together have already been released, meaning we get a preview of our next format 2 months ahead of time. While it's very, very early days and the meta will evolve over the coming weeks, I thought now would be a great time to preview the best decks. And I'm totally not doing it now because there's a new TCG Pocket set on Wednesday and I'm going to be playing that. Definitely not. How dare you accuse me of such a ridiculous thing? It's just like how 4 of the Wind says I'm the one who took all his socks. Anyways, after a single weekend, Pokécobblebook and Limitless have compiled the best performing decks in Japan, with Dragapult EX and Raging Bolt EX coming out on top. Charizard EX rounds out the top 3, with Milotic EX and Gholdengo EX in A tier. In today's video, I'll be showcasing some of those top performing decks in Japan's new standard format, which we'll enter on March 27th. Just keep in mind that our top decks aren't their top decks, and this is merely an early guide. I'll have more videos in March as we get closer to Journey Together, which should give us a clearer picture of what will rule Pokemon TCG Live to start our new season. Surprising no one, Raging Bolt EX is primed to be a top deck post-rotation and probably for the rest of 2025. The cards it loses with rotation are easy to bear. Radiant Greninja is probably the biggest one, as it removes an easy way to get energy in the discard pile for Sada's Vitality. Switch Card and Pokestop will also be missed, same with Trekking Shoes, but that's about it. You still pair Raging Bolt with Teal Masked Ogerpon, use Sada for energy acceleration, and hit super hard. What's hilarious is that not a single new card from Journey Together is needed to build Raging Bolt come March 27th. Just take your existing list, remove like 6 cards with yellow borders, and add in things like Latias EX, Beach Quart, and Crispin. Do that and you're done. It's honestly pretty boring how easily Raging Bolt adapts to losing F-block cards. The only interesting part is the 2 different builds. This first one focuses on a lot of trainers, with Squawkabilly and Pheasantipity as your draw. The second list features Noctowl. Since Ogerpon is a Terra Pokemon, you'll be able to go to Hooters every single game, grabbing whatever 2 trainers you want upon evolution. Plus, someone like Fan Rotom gives you an easy way to deal with things like Badoo or low HP basics. Regardless of the build you choose, again, you don't need any new 2025 cards. While not as successful, there is another way to play Raging Bolt EX post-rotation, pairing it with Iono's Pokemon. Bellibolt EX allows you to accelerate every lightning energy in your hand to an Iono's Pokemon. Raging Bolt does more damage based on the amount of energy you discard from your Pokemon. This eliminates the need for Ogerpon and Grass energy, but it comes at the cost of having a weak turn 1. What about card draw? Well, I originally read Kilowattrel wrong. Instead of discarding the energy from hand, the energy has to be discarded from Kilowattrel itself to draw up to 6 cards in hand. Thanks to Bellibolt's ability, this is never an issue. Throw in Lavincia to recover 2 lightning energy from the discard pile, and you have a deck that sacrifices a fast start for a stronger finish. While this rotation takes a lot of strong cards out of standard, most of the best decks today will continue to be the best decks once Journey Together is out. Case in point, Dragapult EX. Rotom V, Forest Sealstone, Radiant Alakazam, and Lance to get around item lock are the biggest things Dragapult loses, but it still has access to Sparkling Crystal to attack for a single energy, Dracloak to draw cards every turn, TM Evolution to get those Dracloak quickly, Dusclops and Dusknoir to shorten games, and you can always Jacq off instead of playing Lance. This first place list from Japan doesn't feature any new cards from Journey Together, and the strategy is straightforward. Use Badoo to buy a turn or 2, get Dragapult up and running, and start spreading damage counters like their cheeks. There's also Monkey Dory for extra spread, with Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon as an interesting tech since it can also take advantage of Sparkling Crystal. What sets Dragapult apart from Raging Bolt is the variety of lists. While Raging Bolt is pretty much only ever going to be paired with Teal Masked Ogerpon, Dragapult has been successfully paired with more cards than you can count on one foot. There's Charizard EX, which should be familiar to a lot of Dragapult players out there. This first place list doesn't include a copy of TM Evolution, which I think is a mistake. I'd cut the Hawlucha for it because while Pokemon League HQ and Badoo can help you buy an early turn, why not give yourself another out to quick evolutions? The benefit of Xatu is that you can drop the Sparkling Crystal in favor of Unfair Stamp to be annoying. Since Xatu's ability accelerates a Psychic Energy to a bench Pokemon and draws you 2 cards, this is just a really solid list and probably the best one for new players. Admittedly, the Gholdengo EX version is weirdier than the Ride Pokemon in Legends Arceus. Still, thanks to Crispin, you're able to attack with Dragapult whenever you need to. And even if Dragapult isn't necessary, the Dracloak give you access to even more card draw. For the degenerates out there, don't worry, Iron Thorns EX is still a great partner. Shut off their abilities with Iron Thorns, buy yourself some time, maybe get some damage into play, then take control with Dragapult. Like the previous list, there's no new cards here. So how about we take a journey together and add some new cards to Dragapult? What I've seen from Japan so far is kinda spicy. Lily's Clefairy EX gives all of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon a Psychic weakness. This gives you a way to one-shot your opponent's Dragapult EX or Raging Bolt EX with Clefairy, though Clefairy itself is fairly weak at just 190 hit points. Assuming Blaziken EX is included in Journey Together, it simply accelerates an energy from the discard pile with its ability. And Maractus can help trap a Badoo in their active, and if they decide to knock out Maractus, they take 6 damage counters in revenge. Whatever version you end up playing, Dragapult EX is going to be a heavily played deck post-rotation. Something like this typically happens when a new set is released, and especially when rotation happens. At the start of a new format, people aren't concerned with teching for all the different matchups. They just want to whip out their shiny new deck and see if anyone can beat them off. So it should come as no surprise that the Milotic EX wall deck has seen some early success in Japan, especially on that first day. There are several reasons for this. First up, canceling Cologne is gone. The main way to deal with ability-based wall Pokemon no longer exists in Standard, so if you're playing Dragapult EX or Charizard EX without a non-Terra attacker, you're screwed. And don't forget that Radiant Charizard leaves with rotation as well, taking one of the best backup attackers in the game. Additionally, Milotic EX has 270 hit points. That might not seem impressive until you remember that 2 Dusknoir does 260 damage, meaning it requires so much more to be dealt with. And finally, with V Pokemon gone from Standard, everyone's forced to use EXs as their multi-prize attackers, which Milotic loves to see. Obviously, Milotic has weaknesses, and I'm not talking about Lightning. Its ability only blocks damage and effects of attacks from Terra Pokemon. Not every EX is a Terra, some of the best are, but not all. So you have to play 2 other ability-based wall Pokemon, Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon and Farigiraf EX. Cornerstone Mask is immune to damage from Pokemon with an ability, while Farigiraf is protected against basic Pokemon EX. If you want to go even further, include Mimikyu to protect against every Pokemon EX and Noivern EX to protect against every basic. As for the A-Spec, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pokevital A has been a good partner. I feel physically sick saying that. But healing 150 damage is always useful if you can survive a hit. Otherwise, go with Heroescape or Scoop Up Cyclone to keep your sanity. Sticking with that theme of wall decks dominating at the start of a new format, we have Aegislash. Its ability is the exact same as Mimikyu's, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon EX. Unlike Mimikyu, it has 150 hit points and can deal 120 damage with an attack that goes through all effects. So while it is a stage 2 and harder to get up and running, it has an easier time surviving attacks from non-EX Pokemon while also hitting harder. On top of that, it's tougher for them to KO Aegislash with Dragapult EX Pings than Dusclops or Dusknoir. So if you can survive the first Timmy turn or 2 of the game, EX heavy decks will struggle. Grand Tree helps get those Aegislash into play quickly, while Aegislash EX can be a great late game sweeper, dealing 70 damage times the number of prize cards you've taken. So at 4 prize cards taken, it's doing 280 damage for 1 energy. While wall decks will get weaker the longer the format goes on as people are more prepared for them, if you want to cheese wins during that first week of Journey Together, try Milotic or Aegislash. The loss of Radiant Charizard for Charizard EX is more devastating than spilling a full tub of foot lotion on the ground. Being able to do 250 damage with a single prizer once or twice per game was insane. Its removal from Standard is part of the reason why Charizard has dropped a bit, but Charizard EX being such an amazing card on its own is why it's still one of the top decks. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Charizard doesn't really use any new cards from Journey Together. The Pidgeot EX build still runs the Dusknoir line to blow itself and help set up KOs with Charizard's attack, which does 180 base damage plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. Precious Trolley's the ace-spec of choice to fill up the bench early, with Briar able to give you that crucial extra prize card when your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining. As for the Noctowl build, you pair Charizard EX with Terapagos EX. This means you can activate Area 0 and Noctowl's ability to grab any 2 trainers without needing to have Charizard in play. Plus, Terapagos is a basic Pokemon without an ability that can deal up to 240 damage with a full bench of 8 Pokemon, and that number jumps to 290 with the maximum belt attached. This first place list is definitely busy, but smart players like you and me can master it in minutes. In order to try and replace Radiant Charizard, Japanese players have tried a few different attackers. Terapagos is a great option in an Area 0 build, as Charizard can power it up with its ability. Otherwise, Clefairy EX can one-shot Raging Bolt and Dragapult thanks to its ability, with Tapu Koko EX mostly there to one-shot Pidgeot EX and any lightning-weak water Pokemon. You will need a Psychic Energy for Clefairy or a Lightning Energy for Tapu Koko, so keep that in mind. Similarly, there's Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon and Wellspring Masked Ogerpon. Cornerstone Mask can be a great wall, while Wellspring Mask is a bench sniper in a format that doesn't have Manaphy anymore. And Pheasantipede can always be a bench sniper in a pinch. While Radiant Charizard can't be replaced, Charizard EX being such a strong card on its own keeps it near the top of standard. Gholdengo EX hasn't exactly dominated in Japan so far, but it's always a solid option, able to one-shot most things for 7 energy in hand. Losing Canceling Cologne does mean it gets walled by Mimikyu, but Togekiss is still a great partner, able to maybe get you an extra prize card with each KO. And something I wasn't expecting was the pairing of Gholdengo with Lavincia. While the Pokemon Company wanted Lavincia to be used with Iono's Pokemon, Cheese String Man uses it to get 2 Lightning Energy back in hand. You still play Energy Search Pro to fill your hand with energy early, but Lavincia just means you have 2 Lightning Energy in the deck instead of 1 now. Another new interesting card for Gholdengo is Exchange Ticket. If you prized a ton of energy, use Exchange Ticket to swap your remaining prize cards with the same number of cards from the top of your deck. You can even use Cypher Maniac to send useless cards to the prizes if you want. That Dragapult EX build I showed you earlier is the most popular and powerful version of Gholdengo in Japan so far. But Togekiss and Scizor are the second best choices. Scizor gives you a great backup attacker, while Togekiss can disappoint you repeatedly. Additionally, players in Japan have paired Gholdengo with the Dunsparce line. The baby Dunsparce draws you 3 extra cards, while the EX does 60 damage times the number of EX Pokemon your opponent has in play, all for a single energy. It's just a great card to surprise them with. As for Mimikyu, you can include a single copy of the Surging Sparks Gholdengo, which one-shots it if it just evolved. Archaludon EX is a deck that's been steadily rising since the release of Surging Sparks in November, but with rotation it loses Dialga V-Star and Radiant Greninja. So the best backup attacker and a way to draw cards and discard energy is gone. How exactly does it rebound? Well, it involves taking a hop of faith. Archaludon's greatest weakness is that it only does 220 damage. While that number can increase when you use Relicanth to copy Duraludon's Raging Hammer after Archaludon is heavily damaged, your opponent can play around it. Enter Hop Zacian EX. For 4 energy, it does 240 damage. But with Hop Snorlax and Postwick in play, plus Hop's Choice Band attached to Zacian, now it does 330 damage for 3 energy, one-shotting everything you need it to. If that's not enough, you can also include Dubwool, which is free Gust upon evolution. Unfortunately, this doesn't solve the problem of getting energy in the discard pile. So use Revavroom, which discards an energy from hand to draw you up to 6. Combine that with Iris's Fighting Spirit, which does pretty much the same thing, and you should be able to win regularly with Archaludon post-rotation. This first list is all about consistency. You use Dubwool to pick targets, Revavroom and Iris to discard that energy, Zacian EX to one-shot a Raging Bolt, and scoop up Cyclone to potentially heal a damaged Archaludon. The second list is all about power. Drawing cards and discarding energy and gusting won't be quite as easy, but now you have a card in Zacian EX that can one-shot everybody. It'll definitely take some testing to find out which one is best, but both seem great. Otherwise, you can pair Archaludon with Scizor or Dunsparce and Dunsparce EX. I personally think Hop will be the best partner for Archaludon, but at the start of a new format, you might not have access to all the new cards. So these guys just give you a way to ease into things. Finally, I know what you're all wondering. When will Trust Your Pilot do a foot reveal? Also, how is Gardevoir doing post-rotation? And the answer is good, but not great. The losses of Kirlia and Radiant Greninja remove Guardy's way of getting energy in the discard pile while also drawing cards. That's the bad news. The good news is that Gardevoir is pretty much the exact same deck, meaning you don't have to completely redo your list. Your main attackers are still going to be Drifloon to hit 300 damage with a Bravery Charm attached, Screamtail to snipe their benched, which gets better without Manaphy in format, and Fluttermane is just a good way to deal damage and spread a couple of counters. As you've probably already guessed, Lily's Clefairy EX is included with Gardevoir now, as it allows you to one-shot Dragon types, while also KOing other meaningful Pokemon for 2 energy so long as there's a lot of bench Pokemon in play. There's nothing too exotic with a post-rotation Gardevoir list. Since Kirlia is useless now, you focus on getting Guardy into play quickly with Rare Candy. Monkey Dory still helps put more damage into play, with Pheasantipede a new way to draw cards each turn. You could always swap out Badoo for Cleffa to draw more cards and include a Mimikyu, but unless we get some busted new Psychic-type Pokemon this year, Gardevoir probably won't be more than a high B-tier deck. Hopefully this video gave you an idea of what the best decks will be once rotation comes to Pokemon TCG Live on March 27th. If you skip to the end, basically Raging Bolt and Dragapult are shaping up to be the top 2 decks in the format. Even with Lily's Clefairy EX giving Dragon Pokemon a Psychic weakness, they're still super powerful, able to beat off pretty much anyone. If you're wondering about all the new Trainers Pokemon decks coming in Journey Together, I'll be covering those in my next video. This was more about how the old decks will adapt once all the remaining Sword and Shield cards are removed from Standard. The biggest piece of advice I can give anyone watching this video is to make sure you've at least logged into Pokemon TCG Live before March 27th. This way you'll get 10 free decks, which will boost your account with a ton of great post-rotation cards. Because they've made such player-unfriendly decisions lately when it comes to the economy, I can't say for certain if we'll get 8 new free decks for this year. I can hope, but that's a word I've removed from my vernacular when it comes to Live. So get the guaranteed free cards while you can. Which deck are you most excited to play post-rotation? Type it in the comments with your bare feet.